You ever stand there in the middle of a group of your own friends and feel like you just got punched in the chest, but nobody else noticed? That's exactly what happened to me the night my wife humiliated me. But before I get to that, let me back up for a second, because to understand how deep that moment cut, you got to understand who I am, or at least who I used to be. My name's Derek Simmons. I'm 34, born and raised in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I've been working as an auto mechanic since I was 20. My dad owned a small garage off East Brainerd Road. Nothing fancy, 3 bays, rusted coat machine out front that barely worked. He passed it on to me when he got sick with COPD. I took it over and kept it running the best I could. I'm not flashy, not the guy with designer shoes or six-pack abs. I work hard, I treat people fair, and I go home tired. That's been my rhythm for over a decade. Same steel-toe boots, same thermos, same quiet life. And for a long time, I thought that was enough. I met Kayla when I was 27. She came into the shop with a busted serpentine belt and a loud TikTok voice that echoed off the bay walls like she owned the place. She wore those ripped jeans that made you look twice, bright red lipstick at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday, and she talked fast, like she was late for something even when she wasn't. We were nothing alike. I liked football and smoked ribs. She liked wine bars and Instagram stories. But when she smiled, it did something to my chest. I know this sounds corny, but it's the truth. She told me later that she thought I was stable and safe, said I had those husband vibes. At the time, I took it as a compliment. Now, I realize she meant it like I was a golden retriever. Fast forward 4 years, and we're married, living in a modest 3-bedroom in East Ridge. I work 50, 60 hours a week at the garage. She works at a high-end salon in North Shore, does coloring, extensions, brows, all that stuff. She's good at it, no doubt. And honestly, things were fine for a while. I'd come home covered in oil and sweat, and she'd be sitting at the kitchen counter with a glass of wine, scrolling through her phone. I'd cook. She'd complain about the clients who didn't know what real balayage was. We'd eat, sometimes watch The Office, then go to bed. Not perfect, but familiar. But the longer we were together, the more I started to feel invisible. I'd say something funny. She'd scroll past it. I'd ask how her day was. She'd give me a one-word answer and go back to whatever TikTok drama she was watching. Our conversations turned into quick updates. Our intimacy turned into awkward routines. The warmth? Gone. But I still tried. I'd surprise her with takeout from her favorite Thai spot. Left notes in her car. Bought her those stupid $40 hair products she liked because drugstore stuff is for teenagers, according to her. She didn't even say thank you. Just said, "Oh, you remembered." Like it was a chore I finally did. Now, let me bring you to the night it all cracked open. It was a Saturday. My best friend Trey was turning 35. He's like a brother. We've known each other since high school. We planned a simple backyard dinner. Just close friends. Grilled burgers, cornhole, football, and a TV in the garage. I asked Kayla earlier that week if she'd come. She rolled her eyes. "Do I really have to sit around with your dirty friends and talk about trucks and smoked meats again?" I said, "It's just one night." For Trey. She shrugged. "Fine, but I'm not staying long." She showed up late, 30 minutes after we'd started eating. Walked in like she was stepping into a runway. Tight black dress, heels in the grass, makeup like she was headed to some downtown bar. Everyone looked up. Even Trey's wife gave me a look like, "Is she okay?" Kayla sat next to me, didn't say hi to anyone. Just scrolled her phone, posted a story about the hillbilly barbecue night, tagging me with a pig emoji. People laughed awkwardly. I chuckled too, just to keep the mood light. Then it happened. We were all sitting around the patio table, talking about dumb high school memories. Trey brought up the time I got kicked out of Mr. Dillard's English class for throwing a spitball at the clock and said, "Man, Derek's always been the quiet troublemaker." Everyone laughed. I smiled. And then Kayla goes, "Quiet troublemaker? Please. This man couldn't cause trouble if you paid him. He's so boring now, I literally fall asleep mid-conversation." The table went dead silent. Even the cicadas stopped for a second. Trey looked at me like he wanted to punch something. Kayla kept sipping her wine, acting like she just told a knock-knock joke. I didn't say a word, didn't flinch, didn't storm off, didn't raise my voice. I just nodded slowly, looked down at my plate, and took another bite of baked beans. Because I knew right then, we were done. I didn't argue in the car. I didn't bring it up when we got home. I just started packing my emotional bags, quietly, like a man already gone. And that silence? That was the start of the story she never expected. Because the thing about quiet men, when they leave, they don't slam the door. They just never come back. You ever sit across the dinner table from someone and realize you're just a piece of furniture to them? That was me that night, after Kayla humiliated me in front of everyone I grew up with. I came home, took off my boots, washed the dishes from the party leftovers she left piled in the sink, wiped down the counter like a routine. She was already upstairs, lights off, probably drunk texting someone about how emotionally unavailable I was without once looking in the mirror. She didn't say goodnight, didn't even ask if I was okay. And I didn't need her to, because something in me had gone quiet, like a generator shutting down in the middle of the night. Not with a bang, but with a final hum. I went to bed beside her without a word, stared at the ceiling for hours, feeling the weight of that moment at Trey's party press on my chest like a cinder block. He's so boring now, I fall asleep mid-conversation. That sentence looped in my brain over and over like static. I didn't sleep a second. I was done, but not in the dramatic, leave a note and pack your stuff kind of way. I was done in the real man's way. The one where your mind goes quiet, your face stays calm, but your heart already packed and left. The next morning, I left the house before the sun came up. Didn't slam the door. Didn't grab a suitcase. Just grabbed my go bag I keep in the garage. Old gym clothes, extra boxers, a shaving kit, and some tools. I didn't text her. Didn't write a note. Just left. I drove across the bridge and checked into an extended stay motel in Hickson. Not the fancy kind, the kind with stained carpets, ice machines that never work, and a smell of microwave popcorn and bleach. Paid for a week in cash. Room 217. Dropped my bag on a squeaky mattress, sat on the edge of the bed, and just breathed. First real breath in months. That night, she didn't even notice I was gone. No text, no call. That told me everything. The woman I used to love didn't care where I was. And when she eventually realized I'd disappeared, it wouldn't be concern in her voice. It would be confusion, then anger, then entitlement. But not remorse. Because people like her don't realize what they've lost until the silence echoes. Over the next 2 days, I started moving smart. First, I went to the bank, froze our joint checking account, and opened a new one in my name only. Put in just enough to keep the bills paid on the house. I wasn't going to leave her homeless. I'm not that guy. But I moved the rest of my money. I switched passwords, removed her access to my phone line, changed my location permissions, canceled our Hulu and Spotify accounts. The little things, but they always leave a mark. I texted Trey, told him I needed a few days of space. He didn't ask questions. You do what you gotta do, brother. That's all he said. Real friends don't need full explanations. I didn't tell my mama. Not yet. She loves Kayla, or thought she did. Southern moms are like that. They cling to peace even when the house is burning. But that talk would come later. For now, I was quiet, focused, controlled. Not bitter, just finished. Kayla finally noticed I was gone by day 3. Her first text came in at 6:12 a.m. Where are you? No punctuation, like it was my job to report back. I left her on read. She texted again at lunch. Are you seriously ignoring me? Then at dinner. You're being childish. I was joking that night. Grow up. Joking. That's what she called it. Publicly humiliating the man who's paid your rent, cooked your meals, bought your stupid $180 Olaplex shampoo sets, and pretended to laugh at your influencers. She called that a joke. I didn't reply. I sat on a motel bed with a frozen burrito on my lap, watching old replays of Forged in Fire, and realized how peaceful it felt to eat in silence. Nobody nagging. No sideways comments. No passive-aggressive sighs because I used paper plates. Just me. A cheap dinner. And a channel that never judged me. And that's when it really clicked. I hadn't left too soon. I'd stayed too long. By the end of the week, I'd made arrangements to stay longer. Sign a month-to-month lease at a little duplex on the edge of Lookout Valley. Not fancy, but clean. 1 bedroom. Big enough for a couch, a small kitchen table, and my sanity. I went to Walmart, grab a new coffee maker, some cheap utensils, and a set of dark blue towels. It felt like a motel, but mine. My first night there, I slept like a baby. Woke up at 10 a.m. on a Sunday, made eggs and toast, and drank black coffee on the back porch in boxers. That silence? That wasn't loneliness. That was freedom. Kayla started unraveling faster than I thought she would. By week 2, she called me 16 times. Sent another 20 texts. They bounced between fury and guilt. Wow. So I make one joke, and you abandon our marriage. Then, I miss you. Then, you're pathetic. Then, I need to talk to you. Please. I never responded. Because I knew her pattern. I knew she wasn't trying to make things right. She was trying to regain control. She wanted me to break my silence. To chase. To argue. But I wasn't that man anymore. I didn't need closure. I needed peace. And the deeper she spiraled, the more I healed. I stopped checking her socials. Stopped looking at old photos. Stopped wondering if she meant the cruel things she said, because whether she meant them or not didn't matter. She said them. Out loud. In public. In front of my friends. And I'd stayed quiet. But now, my silence wasn't weakness. It was power. Because when a man like me, the calm, loyal, stay in the background kind, finally leaves, we don't come back. We vanish. Let me tell you something most people don't understand. When a man goes quiet, I mean really quiet, it's already too late. People like Kayla, they're not used to silence. They're used to drama. Screaming, blocking, unblocking, slamming doors. They know how to fight, but they don't know how to handle vanishing. And I didn't just leave the house. I took the part of me she used to lean on, the steady, quiet, unfailing version of me, and I buried it in a place she would never find again. She had no clue what that silence meant. At first, she thought I was bluffing. It started 2 days after I shut her out completely. I had just gotten off work, hands still stained with motor oil from pulling a blown head gasket on a 09 Tacoma. I grabbed a burger from Armando's off Lee Highway, came back to the little duplex I'd just signed for, and turned my phone off airplane mode. 9 missed calls. Kayla. Text number 1. So you just ghosted me now? Real mature, Derek. Number 2. You're being dramatic. You know I was joking. Everyone laughed. Number 3. I made dinner. Are you coming home or not? I laughed out loud at that last one. Home. She killed that word the second she cracked that joke about me being boring in front of Trey and the guys like I was a prop at her one-woman show. She didn't want a husband that night. She wanted an audience. And now she wanted her emotional punching bag back. I left her on read. Didn't even open them. Just silenced her notifications, tossed the phone face down, and cracked open a beer. I sat out back, on that half-broken lawn chair that came with the place, looking out over a weedy little patch of grass. The air smelled like cut grass and cheap detergent from the laundry room vent. And for the first time in months, I felt okay. Not happy, not healed, but centered. And Kayla? She was starting to lose it. By the end of the week, she was texting like a woman on a sinking boat. You're not even going to talk to me? I was mad, okay? I took it too far. Just say something. I miss you. I miss us. You don't even care, do you? I read that last one while I was wiping my hands clean with an oil rag at the shop. I just stared at the screen for a second, then tossed the phone back on the workbench. Because I did care. That was the damn problem. I cared too much for too long. And now that I didn't anymore, she felt it in her chest like a gunshot. Then came the calls. Nighttime. Midday. Early morning. One night, she called me at 2:27 a.m. I watched it ring in the dark from across the room. Didn't even flinch. She left a voicemail. Her voice was shaky. Soft. I don't know what's going on in your head, Derek, but you're scaring me. I thought you were the kind of man who fights for his marriage. Guess I was wrong. It wasn't an apology. It was manipulation in a cardigan. She still thought I owed her a reaction. She still believed I was sitting somewhere, stewing, waiting to be let back in. She had no idea I was already done. That same week, I ran into Jared, one of Trey's buddies, at a gas station on Highway 153. He gave me that, "Hey man, I don't know if I should bring this up look. You good, Derek?" I nodded. Better than I've been in a long time. He hesitated, then said, "Kayla's been calling Trey, crying, saying you abandoned her." I took a breath. I didn't abandon her, man. I just finally walked away from someone who thought I'd never leave. He nodded, didn't press, because the truth is people had seen it. They just never said anything. The way she'd talk down to me in front of people. The way she'd act single when it suited her. The way she'd weaponize embarrassment like it was a game. But now that her game was over, she had no one to play with. Then she tried to post her version of things online. Instagram story. Black background. White letters. Loyalty doesn't mean much to some people. Just remember that. Next one. Don't ignore a woman who's trying to love you. That's how you lose her. I didn't respond. Didn't watch it from my own account. Trey screenshotted it, sent it to me, said, "Man, she's not handling this well." I replied, "She never did," like silence. A few days later, she sent one last text before the flood really started. "I can't sleep. I can't eat. I've been throwing up all day. Please, can we talk?" And for a split second, just one breath-long moment, I almost softened, because I'm not made of stone. I'm human. I remember how she looked the first night I kissed her, how she used to fall asleep on my chest like I was her home. But then I remembered that backyard, that patio table, my closest friends, her laughing while she turned me into a punchline. And I remembered what it felt like to swallow that pain in front of everyone I cared about and smile like it didn't hurt. So I didn't reply, because I wasn't punishing her. I was just finally choosing me. Kayla had always seen silence as a threat, but now she was starting to learn that silence is a verdict, a cold, irreversible sentence from the man she thought would never leave. And it was killing her, because once a man like me learns how to breathe without you, he never comes back for oxygen. You know what hit me the hardest after leaving? It wasn't being alone. It was waking up the first morning in that tiny duplex and not feeling the need to brace myself for anything. No tension in the air. No eyes watching me like I was a disappointment. No sarcastic voice saying, "Oh, you actually up early?" Miracle. Just the sound of a box fan humming. A dusty window catching a little sun. And the soft creak of cheap vinyl floors as I walked barefoot into the kitchen. That first morning alone, it felt like freedom wearing sweatpants. I made scrambled eggs with too much pepper, burned the toast a little, poured grocery store orange juice into a glass that still had the sticker on it. And I sat there at my $40 Facebook Marketplace table with chipped edges like I was eating a 5-star meal. Because for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I had to hurry, explain, apologize, or shrink. I just existed. That morning, I sat in total silence and realized how loud my marriage had become. Not loud like yelling, loud like constant pressure, the kind that wears down your bones. The way you stop laughing at your own jokes because someone keeps giving you that "you're not funny" look. The way you change what you eat because your partner makes comments like, "Bacon again?" You know that's not healthy, right? It's not the big fights that kill men. It's the 1,000 little humiliations that add up. And now they were gone. I started rebuilding my routine, one quiet step at a time. Every morning, I'd wake up at 6:30, not because anyone told me to, just because I wanted to. I'd stretch, make a single cup of coffee in the cheap drip machine I picked up from Target, sit on the porch in a folding chair that used to be in my dad's old fishing boat, watch the neighborhood dogs bark at squirrels, listen to traffic hum in the distance. It didn't feel lonely. It felt mine. At work, the guys noticed something was different. One day, while I was replacing a radiator on a Chevy Impala, my coworker Luis leaned over the hood and said, "You smiling more now, man. You seeing somebody?" I shook my head. "Nah." "Then what is it?" I wiped my hands on a rag and said, "I think I'm just breathing again." He nodded slow. Didn't ask more. Because men like us, we don't need the whole backstory. We just know when someone's been carrying weight for too long and finally dropped it. It's funny how the smallest things feel massive when you've been starved of peace. I remember going grocery shopping alone that first Sunday. Publix mid-morning. I bought frozen pizzas, Gatorade, Hot Pockets, all the dumb comfort food I wasn't allowed to bring home before. Kayla used to mock my snack habits. "You eat like a divorced teenager." She wasn't wrong. Except now, that teenager was happy. I stood in that checkout line behind an old man buying soup and protein shakes, and I felt something strange swell in my chest. It was contentment, and it didn't need to be explained. I started journaling at night. Nothing dramatic, just 3 lines a day. What made me feel calm? What drained me? Well, I'm still unlearning. It helped. Because people think men don't feel grief after separation unless they show it through anger. But let me tell you, the grief of a good man is silent, patient, and heavy. It hits in the quiet moments. When you remember folding her laundry or how she liked her eggs. When you open a drawer and find a stupid keychain she got you from Gatlinburg that says, "Grumpy but handsome." Grief for what could have been. But I let it come, and I let it pass. By the third week, I stopped checking her social media. Not because I stopped caring, but because I no longer needed updates on someone who never updated me on what mattered when we were together. She could have been crying. She could have been partying. She could have been curled up watching The Notebook on repeat. I didn't need to know, because healing isn't about tracking someone's downfall. It's about choosing your peace over your curiosity. Trey stopped by my place one night. He brought beers and a bag of charcoal and said, "Let's christen that busted grill on your patio." We stood out back, flipping burgers, talking trash about the Titans, laughing about dumb high school stuff. Halfway through his second beer, he looked at me and said, "You're different now. Calmer." I smiled. Took getting broken to finally breathe right. He nodded. "Kayla's still calling?" I shrugged. "Yeah, but she's not calling me. She's calling the old me. The guy who let stuff slide. That guy doesn't live here anymore." I started sleeping through the night. That might not sound like a big deal, but if you've ever laid next to someone who made you feel unloved, you know how rare good sleep is. I used to wake up at 3 a.m. and stare at the ceiling, wondering what I'd done wrong. Now I slept like a man who finally stopped blaming himself. A few weeks later, I found myself standing in Barnes & Noble of all places. I don't even read that much, but I was walking by and thought, why the hell not? I walked out with a copy of Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins and a $5 coffee I didn't really like, and I felt like a teenager again. Just existing for myself. That's what peace looks like. It's not sexy. It's not loud. It's not a revenge body or a new car. It's buying a book no one told you to read and drinking a coffee no one judged you for. One night, sitting on that same back porch, the stars out over Lookout Mountain, I whispered out loud, "Thank you for breaking me." Not to Kayla, to myself. Because had I stayed one more year, one more month, maybe even one more day, I would have turned into a man I didn't recognize. Now I could see myself again. I hadn't seen Kayla in 6 weeks. Not since the night I walked out and left the house key on the table. But when I saw her again, it was like watching someone try to read a book that was suddenly in another language. Same cover, same title, but the story inside, she didn't recognize it anymore. And that's exactly what I wanted. It was Trey's birthday. Same Trey who watched me get humiliated on our back porch like I was a joke. He invited a bunch of us out to Topgolf in Chattanooga. Just drinks, food, casual swings. Nothing fancy. I didn't even plan to go at first. I almost texted him and said I'd pass, but then I realized something. I wasn't hiding anymore. I didn't need to avoid her. She was the one who should feel the shift, and I wanted her to see it. So I showed up around 7:20. Dark jeans, black button-up, fresh haircut, fade done tight by Marcus at King's Cuts. Clean shave, cologne that lingered. The kind you don't notice until someone leans in and then can't forget. I walked in like I belonged there because I did. Not like a guy trying to prove something. Just a man who had nothing to hide. And then I saw her. She was standing near one of the bays, cocktail in hand, wearing that same fake laugh she always used when she wanted attention. But when her eyes landed on me, everything about her shifted. Her shoulders tightened. Her grip on the glass changed. And her smile disappeared like someone pulled the plug on a neon sign. She wasn't expecting this version of me. Trey saw me and waved. "Derek, my God." I walked over casual, no rush, gave him a hug, and handed him the bottle of whiskey I brought. Whistlepig 10-year, his favorite. He looked surprised. "Damn, you remembered." "Course I did. Who do you think used to hide it from Kayla when she said it gave you a beer gut?" We laughed, out loud, and she heard it. Oh, she heard it. She stayed at a distance for most of the night, but I felt her eyes every time I moved. It was subtle at first, just glances, but then it became full-on stares. The kind that don't blink, the kind that try to piece things together. Because I wasn't fidgeting. I wasn't slouching. I wasn't the man she last saw. Small, quiet, apologetic. I was present, and that presence, it burned her like daylight. Around 9:30, I stepped out onto the patio for air. Cool breeze, the hum of traffic, distant laughter. That's when she came outside. I didn't look at her. Not at first. Just sipped my drink and watched a couple walk past holding hands. Then, finally I said, "You can come stand here. I don't bite." She walked over slow. Black heels. Hair curled. Eyes tired. Hey, you look different." I smiled. That's what peace does. She didn't respond right away. Just stared at me like I was a stranger she used to know. "I've been calling." "I know. You could have at least said something." "I did." "No, Derek. You didn't say anything." I turned to face her, locked eyes, and said, "Exactly." She looked away, took a shaky breath. That confidence she always wore like armor, it cracked like cheap glass. I didn't mean what I said that night, okay? I was just mad. Everyone was joking, and I got carried away. I shook my head calm, no anger in my voice. "You didn't get carried away, Kayla. You showed everyone who you are when there's no fear of consequences." Her lip trembled just barely. "You were my husband, and you were supposed to be my partner. But you turned me into a goddamn prop." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "I miss you." I nodded slowly. "I miss who I was before I let you talk to me like I was nothing." She stepped closer. Too close. "Can we just talk sometime? Not here. Just us." I looked her over, and for a second, I remembered it all. Our first date. The road trip to Asheville. The time we got caught in the rain and danced like idiots in a Kroger parking lot. But those moments, they weren't strong enough to carry the weight of her disrespect. I took a step back. Talking's what got me humiliated in front of my friends. Silence is how I found myself again. She looked down, wiped a tear from her cheek. "I'm sorry. I know, but I don't live in that apology anymore." I walked back inside, left her standing there on the patio, small and shaken. And for the rest of the night, she kept glancing over, hoping I'd give her another look, another shot. But I didn't, because I'd learned something powerful. When someone finally sees your worth after they stomped it in front of a crowd, that's not love. That's regret. And regret's not my responsibility to carry. I left around midnight, got in my truck, rolled down the window, drove slow through the empty streets of downtown Chattanooga, windows down, radio low, Chris Stapleton singing something about broken hearts and better days. And for the first time in years, I wasn't bitter. I wasn't angry. I was whole. It started with a missed call, then 3 more the next day, then a long, emotionally loaded text that read, "I just want to talk. You can't just pretend none of this happened. You meant something to me." But I didn't reply, not because I was playing games, but because, for once, I wasn't willing to hand my peace back to someone who shattered it. Kayla always thought I'd come running, that I'd fold the minute she showed a little vulnerability. That was her pattern. Hurt me, then reel me back in with half-baked tears and a voice that cracked just enough to sound sincere. But this time, it wasn't working. And that silence? It was driving her insane. She started testing boundaries. One Friday evening, I walked out of Publix with a cart full of groceries, turkey breast, instant grits, laundry pods, the usual stuff, and there she was standing by her SUV, pretending to fumble with a grocery bag. I hadn't seen that car in my part of town ever. It was 25 minutes from her job, and she doesn't even shop at Publix. She always complained it was too middle America for her taste. She looked up like she was shocked to see me. "Oh my God, Derek." I just nodded. "Hey, I didn't know you came here." I smirked. "Guess you do now." She laughed nervously, brushing her hair behind her ear. "You look good. Healthy." "I am." "Still got your place off Rossville Road?" "Nope. Moved. New spot, new view." She looked thrown. I didn't give her time to react. Just wheeled my cart to the car, popped the trunk, and loaded the bags. She watched like she wanted to say more. But I got in, buckled up, and drove away. No wave. No drama. Just quiet closure. After that, the texts got wilder. Longer. "Messier, I can't believe you're acting like this. We shared a life, Derek. I know I made mistakes, but I'm human. Don't treat me like I'm a ghost. You're being cold, and I know that's not you. You always used to say we never quit on each other. So what now? You just stop existing." But I didn't stop existing. I just stopped existing for her. My phone buzzed nonstop some nights. She'd call at 10:40, then again at 11:03, then again at 11:27. Sometimes she'd leave voicemails that sounded like she was half drunk, half desperate. Just say something, Derek. I miss you. I messed up. I didn't mean to treat you like that. I didn't mean what I said in front of them. I was just angry and scared. I didn't think you'd ever leave. That line? I didn't think you'd ever leave. It was everything. She never believed I had it in me, because for years I didn't. She even showed up at Luis's garage, where I'd picked up a couple shifts on weekends to help him catch up on work. It was a Saturday morning. I was under the hood of a 2012 Toyota Camry with a bad serpentine belt, and Luis tapped me on the shoulder. Bro, your wife's here?" I stood up, grease on my hands, sweat down my back, and looked toward the entrance. There she was, in heels, jeans, and a blazer, like she just stepped out of Hallmark drama. She was so out of place, surrounded by oil stains, socket wrenches, and the smell of brake fluid. "Can we talk?" I wiped my hands on a rag. "We are talking. I'm sorry, okay? For real this time. I've been thinking about everything, and I don't want to lose you." I looked at her, calm as ever. "Kayla, you already did." She blinked like she didn't hear me right. "You're seriously done?" Just like that. I laughed once. Low. Just like that? "Kayla, it took me years to leave. You just didn't notice until I physically walked out. So you're just going to erase me?" "No. You erased yourself the night you made a joke out of me in front of people who respect me." Luis walked over then, leaned on the hood, arms crossed, watching, not saying anything. But the message was clear. I wasn't standing alone anymore. That's when the crying started. Not loud, but real. Tears sliding past the makeup she layered on like it could hide what was breaking underneath. "I can't sleep. I can't eat. I feel like I'm losing my mind." "You're not. Then why do I feel like this?" "Because I stopped making your bad behavior feel normal." I walked back to the car, told Luis I'd finish the belt later. As I drove away, I caught a glimpse of her in the rearview mirror, standing there between two old pickup trucks, hugging her own arms like she'd just stepped into a snowstorm she wasn't dressed for. And me? I felt nothing. Not because I was cold, but because I'd already burned through every ounce of pain. Now I was just living in the after. She kept texting, kept calling, sometimes sending old photos of us at the lake, us at her cousin's wedding, us in the mountains near Gatlinburg. She even sent one of me asleep on the couch with our old dog Moose with a message. I still have this. I still remember how safe I felt. But I didn't reply, because I remembered something too. How unsafe I felt in my own skin when I had to tiptoe around her moods. How embarrassed I felt pretending we were that couple while she cut me down in private. How lonely it felt to sleep in the same bed as someone who stopped seeing me as a man and started treating me like a burden. That silence? It wasn't punishment. It was recovery. It was boundaries. It was finally listening to the version of me that whispered for years that I deserved better. People think revenge is loud, but sometimes revenge is just peace they can't interrupt. The first time I laughed, really laughed, after the divorce, it caught me off guard. It was during a Sunday morning run of all things. I was jogging through Coolidge Park, listening to a podcast about barbecue, of all things. And some guy said, "If your brisket turns out dry, it's not the cow's fault, it's yours." And for some reason, I just lost it. Not a fake laugh, not a polite chuckle. It was one of those real ones, the kind that comes out of your chest before your brain even has time to filter it. And it hit me. Damn, I haven't felt this light in years. I started doing small things differently. I signed up for a membership at Iron House Gym off Highway 153. Nothing fancy, just a quiet place with iron plates, no influencers filming curls in the mirror, and a punching bag that didn't judge me for staying there 20 minutes longer than necessary. I bought new clothes, not expensive stuff, just things that fit me right. Better jeans, real boots, a couple of solid button-ups. I stopped trying to look young and started dressing like a man who'd lived some life and didn't need to apologize for it. Then there was the truck. I traded in the Altima, the one Kayla always rolled her eyes at and called your little silver roach, and bought a used Ford F-150 in solid condition from a guy named Donnie in Cleveland, Tennessee. That truck wasn't just about horsepower. It was about owning something mine again. Every time I turned the key, it reminded me that I was driving my life, finally. And then I met Riley. Not on a dating app. Not in a bar. Not through some friends trying to set me up. I met her at the DMV. Yeah, the DMV. I was renewing my license, bored out of my mind, when this woman a few seats down pulled a Reese's peanut butter cup out of her bag and whispered, "Bribery works on DMV workers, right?" I laughed and said, "Only if you offer it to the guy in line behind you, too." She smiled, tossed me one, and that was it. Simple, natural, real. We talked for 20 minutes in the parking lot. Nothing intense, just easy. She told me she was a high school English teacher out in Red Bank. Loved poetry, hated standardized tests, lived with her rescue dog named Milo, and drank coffee way too late at night. I told her I was doing part-time mechanical work and freelance graphic stuff online, finally catching my breath after a storm I didn't realize I was living in for years. And she said something I'll never forget. "You don't talk like a bitter man. You talk like a man who finally found his oxygen." I swear I almost choked up right there, because she was right. I didn't rush anything. We started grabbing coffee at Milk and Honey once a week, sitting outside, watching the tourists try to pronounce Chattanooga like it was a foreign word. We talked about everything. No masks, no performances. She never made me feel like I had to prove anything. And for once, I wasn't being punished for being soft or calm or thoughtful. Meanwhile, Kayla was unraveling. It wasn't just the texts anymore. It was DMs on Instagram, emails with just checking in subject lines. One time she even sent a handwritten letter, which felt so off-brand I thought it had to be from someone else. But I didn't respond. I didn't block her either, not out of cruelty, but because I wanted her to feel the full weight of silence. And apparently, she did. Trey called me one evening, said Kayla had shown up drunk at Backstage Bar downtown, crying to everyone who'd listened that I moved on too fast. She even told his fiancé that Riley must be one of those basic women who only wants him for stability. Stability. The thing she mocked for years, she now saw as desirable. She couldn't stand seeing me happy. Not because she missed me, but because she finally realized I wasn't waiting for her anymore. She started sending guilt traps. "I just want to be your friend. Is that really so awful? You're acting like I never existed. Like we weren't real. Why does she get the best version of you?" That last one hit different. Because she wasn't wrong. Riley was getting the best version of me. But not because I changed for her. Because I finally stopped shrinking for someone else. I remember sitting on the tailgate of my truck one night, Riley next to me, drinking iced tea and watching the stars fade into the orange glow of Tennessee streetlights. She leaned her head on my shoulder and said, "I don't know what she did to you, but I'm glad you survived it." And I said, "I didn't just survive it. I outgrew it." Healing didn't come in one moment. It came in layers, in long showers, in quiet drives, in cutting my own damn lawn and realizing how peaceful it felt to do something just for me. In realizing that being alone didn't mean being unloved. It meant clearing space for better love. Kayla? She was still spinning, still posting cryptic quotes, still texting empty, "just thinking of you," messages followed by sad face emojis. Still fishing. But I wasn't biting, because I was finally living on purpose. And every time I looked in the mirror, I saw a man again. Not a shell, not a doormat, not a cautionary tale. A man. It started with a text that didn't feel like her. "I need you. Can we meet, please?" No attitude. No games. No emojis. Just 6 words. I stared at the screen for a good minute, sitting in my truck outside Harbor Freight, sipping lukewarm gas station coffee. It had been almost 3 months since our divorce was finalized, since I had changed my number and left only one line open, the one she never used until now. And suddenly there it was. "I need you." Those words. From her. The woman who once stood at our dining room table, in front of my best friends, laughing that she could snap her fingers and get someone better if she wanted. Now, she was begging for a moment. Something felt off. I didn't reply right away. I went home, took a shower, cooked some pasta, called Riley, listened to her talk about her day at school, a student who accidentally stapled their own hand. We laughed, and for a second, that text was a million miles away. But later that night, it buzzed again. It's not about getting back together. I just want to talk. Just one conversation. That's all. Still no emoji. Still oddly sincere. So I said, tomorrow, 3 p.m., Coolidge Park. Public. She responded immediately. Thank you. When I showed up the next day, Kayla was already there, sitting on one of those stone benches near the walking bridge. She wasn't dressed to impress. No heels, no makeup, just jeans, an oversized hoodie, and a look in her eyes I hadn't seen since the early days. Vulnerable. Almost small. I sat down on the other end of the bench. I'm here. She didn't speak for a full 30 seconds. Just looked at the river like it held some kind of answer. Then she turned and said, I lied. I do want you back. I didn't react. She took a breath, then spilled everything like a bottle that had been shaken too long. I've been going to therapy. For real this time. I've been digging into the stuff I never faced. My dad, my anger, how I talk to people when I'm scared. I've been journaling. I even started volunteering at the rescue shelter on Broad Street. I'm not the same person. And I know I can't undo what I said. What I did. I embarrassed you. I disrespected you. And you had every right to leave. She looked down, swallowed hard. But you were the only person who ever really gave a damn about who I was, not just what I could offer. And I ruined that. I let the words settle. They weren't fake. I could tell. She wasn't acting. She was hurting. But here's the thing about pain. It doesn't make you right. It just means you're finally feeling the thing you made someone else carry for years. You're doing the work now, I said, and that's good. You should keep doing it. She nodded, hopeful. But this isn't the part where we fall back together. Her eyes started to water. I kept going. This is the part where you keep going on your own. Not because you want me watching, but because you owe it to yourself. She shook her head slowly. You really don't feel anything for me anymore. I didn't answer with a dramatic speech. I just gave the most honest answer I had. I don't feel like your man anymore. She broke. Right there, in broad daylight. Started crying in the kind of way that turns heads. Not loud, not performative. Just that raw, chest-collapsing cry that doesn't care who's watching. She whispered, I was scared. You were so calm all the time, it scared me. I thought you'd never leave. So I pushed harder. And when you finally left, it felt like the air got sucked out of the world. I nodded. I know. So what now? You heal. You face your stuff. You stop calling me. You won't even be my friend? No. Why? Because you were never mine when I needed a friend. And I can't build something new on the ashes of something you burned down. She reached out, just barely brushed my arm. Please just tell me this isn't the end. But it was. Not because I hated her, but because I'd finally loved myself enough to walk away and stay away. I stood up, looked at her one last time, and saw not a villain, not a monster, just a broken human. The kind we all become when we let fear run our mouths and ego run our lives. Then I turned and walked. She didn't follow. That night, she sent one last text. I'll never forgive myself, but I'll try to forgive the part of me that thought hurting you was the only way to stay in control. No reply. Not because I wanted to hurt her, but because some silences are sacred, and I wasn't going to fill them with comfort anymore. Kayla thought her final move would bring me back. Instead, it just proved how far I'd come, how far she still had to go, and how sometimes the most powerful thing a man can do is nothing at all. It was almost poetic. The first time Kayla saw me and Riley out in public, holding hands, we weren't even trying to make a statement. We were just grabbing brunch on a Saturday. Bluegrass Grill on Main Street, packed as always. We were sitting at the patio table, her laughing at some dumb joke I made about how Eggs Benedict was just eggs with a superiority complex. Riley had syrup on her lip. I wiped it off, and we smiled at each other like people who actually enjoyed being around one another. That's when I felt it. The stare. You know that feeling when someone's looking at you like they just saw a ghost. I turned slightly, and there she was, Kayla, standing frozen by the hostess stand with her friend Savannah from her yoga group. She looked wrecked, like she hadn't slept, hair tied in a bun that didn't even try, hoodie way too big for her frame. No makeup, no fake confidence, just raw. She didn't even pretend to smile. She just stared. And here's the thing. I didn't feel pride. I didn't feel vindicated. I felt peace, because I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to say a word, flex, pretend, smirk, nothing. She was watching a version of me that she never even tried to understand. Riley looked over and asked, Do you know her? I just said, Yeah, someone I used to love. Then I changed the subject. That moment told me everything I needed to know. Kayla didn't regret losing me. She regretted losing the version of me I became when she stopped being part of my life. Over the next few months, life got quietly better. Not loud, not viral, just full. I moved out of that small one-bedroom off Signal Mountain Road and into a duplex over in St. Elmo, walking distance to Sunset Rock. Riley brought over a few of her paintings. We set up a reading corner with those ridiculous bean bags. I bought a grill, finally, and learned how to make steak the right way. I picked up a side gig helping a buddy build his auto shop's website and found out I actually had a decent eye for digital design. He even offered me part-time hours helping with basic repair work again. I wasn't rich, but for the first time in years, I was fulfilled. I wasn't finding myself. I had already found myself, and now I was just building. Meanwhile, Kayla was still in the shadows of my social media. I don't post much, but every once in a while I'd share a photo of a sunrise hike or Riley and I at a food truck festival or Milo, her rescue dog, curled up on the porch. And like clockwork, Kayla's profile would pop up in the viewed your story list. She never liked anything, never commented, but she watched, like a ghost who didn't know where the door was. Trey told me she tried dating again, some guy named Evan, a real estate agent with a six-pack and no emotional depth. It lasted a month. He ghosted her after she cried at his birthday dinner because he forgot to say, "You look beautiful." That was the moment she realized, apparently, that men don't just become kind. They are kind, or they aren't. And she'd thrown that away like it was a disposable napkin. I heard through a mutual friend that she'd started therapy again. This time, solo. No posting about healing journeys. No Instagram stories about letting go. Just real work. Good for her. But I wasn't part of that chapter. One night, I was walking through Warehouse Row, heading to meet Riley at the Frothy Monkey, and I saw Kayla sitting on a bench across the street. Alone. Smoking a cigarette. Something she used to swear she hated. Looked like she was crying. But I didn't stop. I didn't even slow down. Because there's a point in healing where compassion doesn't mean rescue. I wished her well in my heart. But my life wasn't a lifeboat for people who watch me drown and then blame me for getting wet. The real revenge? It wasn't me finding someone better. It wasn't her watching me thrive. It was the fact that I had no more anger left. No more desire to show her. No more imaginary arguments in the shower. No more checking her profile. No more wondering, what if? Just silence. The kind that holds no pain, only closure. Riley never asked too much about Kayla. She respected that chapter. But one evening, as we watched The Notebook for the 50th time, her choice, not mine, she turned to me and said, "You're the kindest man I know, and I'm so grateful whoever hurt you didn't take that from you." And I swear to God, I almost cried right there. Because she was right. I hadn't become bitter. I'd become better. Kayla? She stayed in town. Still teaches yoga. Still posts vague quotes now and then. Still lingers on my story views. But I don't hate her. I don't love her either. She's just a lesson. A ghost in daylight. You know what I realized? Kayla wasn't the only one who underestimated me. I did too. And that's the part that stings the most. Not that she left me emotionally bankrupt, but that I stayed in that emotional poverty thinking it was the best I'd ever get. But not anymore. I cook now. I hike. I breathe deeper. I hug longer. I laugh louder. I see myself. And I like what I see. She can watch all she wants. But this life, this peace, it's not for her anymore. I was pulling into the Lowe's parking lot. Yeah, I was about to grab some tools for a new shelving project I had going on with Riley when my phone buzzed. Again, Kayla, 10th missed call that week. I ignored it. Again, but this time, she left a voicemail. I didn't want to check it. I really didn't. But something, maybe curiosity, maybe instinct made me play it. The first sound I heard wasn't even her voice. It was a sob. Not the dramatic, performative type. This was guttural. Raw. I could hear how broken she sounded. Then finally, she spoke. "Derek, I don't even know who I am anymore. I can't sleep. I can't eat. I see your face when I wake up, and I hate myself. I hate what I did. I humiliated you in front of your friends like you were nothing. And you just stood there calm. And now I'm the one falling apart. Please, I don't want to lose you forever. Please, I sat there in my truck, engine still running, one hand on the steering wheel. And for the first time in a long time, I felt nothing. No anger, no revenge fantasy. No need to clap back with a "see what you lost" speech. Just silence. Because I wasn't that man anymore. The version of me that begged for her affection, gone. The guy who used to lose sleep trying to figure out what he'd done wrong. He packed his bags and left the night she laughed in my face at that bar. All that remained was a man who survived the fire and walked out cleaner. Let me tell you something, man. When you stop answering, that's when they start screaming. After that voicemail, she sent texts. Long ones. With everything from "I've changed" to "I miss your smell" to "You're the only one who ever really knew me." She even sent a picture. It was that first trip we took to Savannah, the one where she said it was the happiest she'd ever been. I remember that day. We were walking through Forsyth Park, her hand in mine, the sun hitting her auburn hair just right. She laughed at something dumb I said about the squirrels. It was easy back then, effortless. But that moment doesn't exist anymore. Because that version of us, the one in the photo, died the night she mocked me in front of people I considered family. Let me paint you the contrast. Now, I spend weekends cooking with Riley. She's obsessed with pasta, fresh handmade stuff, not the box kind. We roll out the dough together, we laugh, we argue over garlic levels. It's stupid and intimate and real. She doesn't flinch when I talk about my day. She doesn't roll her eyes when I bring up an idea. She listens, not to respond, but to understand. She doesn't love me for the version I pretend to be. She loves the quiet, methodical way I wipe the counters. The way I warm her car up before work when it's freezing. The way I lean into silence instead of trying to fill it with noise. It's little things that build trust. Not the flashy stuff. Not flowers after screaming matches. Not grand apologies after public humiliation. Kayla never understood that. And here's the coldest truth I never told her and never will. Her humiliation didn't break me. It freed me. It let me see what she really thought of me when no one was watching. And that moment, that public gut punch, it stripped away the mask, not just hers, but mine too. I stopped performing, stopped trying to be the man she kept shifting the goalposts for. And in that clarity, I found myself again. One night, this was maybe 2 weeks after the voicemail, I was at the grocery store in line, and guess who I saw? Kayla, in sweats, no makeup, hair in a messy bun, cart half empty. She saw me, and her whole body froze. She looked like she'd seen a ghost. And I guess in a way, she had. She gave this little wave. That "maybe he'll come talk to me" kind of gesture. I didn't. I just nodded once. Calm, respectful. Then paid for my things and walked out. No words. No need. Because when someone chooses to destroy your peace, they don't get access to your silence after you rebuild it. You see, most people think closure is a conversation. They want that final meeting, that coffee shop sit-down where you lay it all out and say, "You hurt me, but I forgive you." But real closure? It's quieter than that. It's walking past the wreckage they caused and not needing to sweep it up anymore. It's hearing your name in their voice again and feeling nothing. Not coldness. Not hate. Just air. So yeah, Kayla cries now. She calls. She sends those long, emotional messages. She plays the victim. She rewrites history like she didn't laugh while tearing me down. And I live. I kiss Riley on the forehead every morning before she leaves for work. I sit on our tiny balcony at night with a glass of red and just breathe. I work my job, build my shelves, call my dad every Sunday, and sleep deeply. I'm not bitter. I'm not even looking back. Because the biggest revenge isn't loud. It's peace. If you're listening to this story and you've ever been where I was, humiliated by the one person who was supposed to protect you, hear me. You don't need to strike back. You just need to step forward. Live so well that they have no choice but to regret losing you. Not because you're trying to prove a point, but because you finally became the version of yourself they were too blind to appreciate. And that version? He doesn't answer calls from the past. He lets it ring and keeps walking.